So we were talking about the systems thinking, where one event will have multiple consequences. So today, all the issues that we'll be talking about will have that element of systems thinking, where one activity will have multifold consequences. Okay? So let us have a look at these issues. The first issue is that of the impact of changing climate change and the ensuing rainfall. You will understand how rainfall will impact the state of Tamil Nadu as a case study. And this is also an opportunity for us to look at the peculiar issue of Mulla Periyar Dam, which is a long-standing issue, a federal issue between the state of Kerala and Tamil Nadu. Before we get into the basics of this class or the context of this issue, let me take you back into the history behind this entire scenario. We are talking about this Mulla Periyar Dam. If I have to explain the geography of this region, it's a very peculiar case. Okay, let's see what that is. This is, the map of India, the southern part of India, and we have Western Ghats. So there is this river Periyar, which originates on the western side of western ridge of the Western Ghats and is actually flowing towards Arabian Sea. And the nature of this region and the geography is such that this part receives excessive rainfall through the monsoon, and this is a rain shadow region. And this is not the case because of climate change. This has always been the case. And way back in 1800s, 1880, somewhere around that time, British actually made a agreement with the King of Travancore. What is the modern day equivalent of this princely state of Travancore? Kerala. So at that time, the chief of Madras presidency, he made a agreement with the Travancore king, asking that we will construct. See, I agree that you have in this region the Periyar river, and it is anyway going away waste into the sea. Why not give us that region for a lease? We will pay you an annual rent, and we will divert that water from the Periyar basin to the Vaigai river basin in Tamil Nadu. The intent behind that is this rain shadow region, like say for example the present day districts of Ramnathpuram, for example, they will get some access to water, right? And this was a very peculiar case. This is a pre-independent era contract that we are talking about, and that lease was for 999 years. This is the backdrop of this Mulla Periyar Dam. And interestingly enough, even after independence, Kerala hosts this Mulla Periyar Dam. It is actually in Kerala, but is entirely operated by Tamil Nadu. Owing to this, I think it's 24th October 1886, somewhere around that time, this deal was made. And that continued even after independence. In 1960s and 70s, this became a huge contentious point between Kerala and Tamil Nadu. Kerala was asking, how is this even fair? If you think that the British era laws were exploitative in nature and very self-centered, how are you actually justifying such a contract now, even after independence? We are not going into the legal logic behind that, but Supreme Court multiple times upheld and enforced this contract, which eventually made Tamil Nadu the de facto controller of this Mulla Periyar Dam. This is the historical context of this issue. Are we discussing the history behind the Periyar Dam, Mulla Periyar Dam, and the issue of dam safety? To an extent, yes. But is that the whole issue? No. This is where the systems thinking comes into the picture. What is this systems thinking? Because of one event, there are multifold consequences. What is that event, or what is that phenomenon? Climate change. See, we are talking about an era where the fundamental assumption of even thinking of an engineering marvel like this, it's an engineering marvel because you are actually transferring an entire water from one basin to another way back in 1800s, 19th century. It's indeed a marvel. And it is because of this. You have to, first of all, you have to appreciate the engineering feat that it was. But secondly, most importantly, the fundamental assumption on which this was even made, we have to start understanding that. What is the assumption? Excess water is always good. That is why we want to store water. Why are we making dams? Dams are fundamentally made on the assumption that if you have excess water and we store it, we will use it whenever there is water deficiency, and it's a good thing. Correct? Now think of this climate change. Because climate was acting in one way back then, this assumption stood right. If that premise itself is changing, do you think this will hold true? Need not be. It will have multifold consequences. This is a primary example of how systems work. You saw this movie Dasavataram, Kamal Hassan. In that movie, there is a discussion of this butterfly effect, where the change in the frequency caused by a butterfly's wings when it is flying around that air, that will have a ripple effect somewhere else. Simply called, this is also called the domino effect. Imagine a series of coins which are laid like this. If you just push one coin, everything else will fall. A system or a domino or the same kind of butterfly effect, all of them talk about the systems philosophy where everything is interconnected. Climate, environment, geography, society, economy, how events unfold in history, all of these subjects kind of encompass this systemic thinking, where one event will not necessarily follow a linear path, unlike in physics or unlike in nature, because at the heart of this are human beings. Human beings do not have a predictable path because of their own emotions. That's why we have to regulate our emotions to an extent and bring some element of predictability so that it doesn't create chaos. This is a subject matter of GS4 ethics in a chapter called emotional intelligence. Anyway, coming back. This is how you have to interlink various parts. Now, when we are talking about this Mulla Periyar Dam, the fundamental assumption is questioned. Now, let's take this impact of climate change to GS1 geography. What is the monsoon that strikes Kerala? Yes? Is it southwest or northeast? Okay. What is the major monsoon wing that strikes Tamil Nadu? See, the fundamental difference here is creating that difference. Imagine you are getting excess rainfall Here you are storing that water. Somewhere, let's say monsoon strikes Kerala in the months of May, June, right? So this has been the historical trend. You store water based on that historical trend only. Suddenly, what if this northeast monsoon, which roughly 45 to 50% of rainfall that Tamil Nadu gets is from this? What if there is a early onset of this monsoon and they start getting water suddenly? Now what is the scenario? See, let me explain this conflict between Kerala and Tamil Nadu now. We have seen the reality of monsoon, where in different time periods, different monsoons are striking both Kerala and Tamil Nadu. And because of this scenario, original premise was to store water in the Mulla Periyar Dam. Now, Kerala is always insecure. We are talking about more than 100-year-old dam. You don't know how safe it is. If you keep the water levels high, what will it lead to? There is a failure of a dam. If there is a failure of a dam, entire Idukki district that is surrounding this dam and some places can completely get submerged. Partial submergence, complete submergence, depending on the vicinity of the area, that entire district is under a risk because of this one dam. That is one scenario. Second scenario, if you don't allow water storage, entire districts of Ramnathpuram, etc. in Tamil Nadu, they will face a severe drought. How do we deal with this dichotomy? So this has been a perennial conflict between Kerala and Tamil Nadu. In 2022, somewhere around April in 2022, Supreme Court intervened and constituted a supervisory committee saying that we will create a kind of a binding rule book to maintain the safety and also address the concerns of both Tamil Nadu and Kerala. All this is fine. We thought everything is settled and everything will be good. But now situations changed. See, if you have to understand how this functions, let me explain it through a mechanism. Like I told you, this is the Western Ghats and this is towards Kerala. Somewhere here you have the dam. How did this water travel from this height to this region? Through a diversion canal and a network of canals. There is a main diversion tunnel which is cut across the Western Ghats somewhere around Cardamom Hills, and from there is a network of canals to take it to various feeding areas. This was how originally Tamil Nadu sustained this water redistribution. But over a period of time, thanks to the unplanned urbanization and ignorance of this entire network of canals, what happened? One, they were encroached. Then they were left ignored. So even if you release the water, like let's say if there is excess water, even if you release, they will not be diverted into this canal network because they were completely filled with silt. They should be cleaned up from time to time. Maintenance should be there. That was completely ignored. Way back from Sangam era, Tamil Nadu was known for its network of canals to manage this water scarcity. That ancient technique, common sense, was completely ignored. The local lakes, the wetlands, the canal networks, which were solving twofold purpose. One is redistributing this water. Two, if you allow this water to accumulate in that region, they will slowly seep in and water in the groundwater. That will also be addressed. So, in a way, we are promoting a nature-based solution and addressing that water scarcity problem. By not taking care of this network, thanks to unplanned urbanization, poor policy implementation, combined with climate change, we are on the verge of a disaster. Not only this, situation is getting even worse. Let's say we will not release water. We will let the water store. What will happen? There is a huge accumulated water here, which is again causing multitude of problems in that specific region. One, if you allow water to stagnate for a very long time, it is the hotbed for new diseases. Encephalitis, all the viral diseases that you can think of, all of them are getting stagnated there. That's the first problem. Second problem, because it is accumulating for a very long time, the fertility of that region is getting severely impacted. How? Soil will accumulate a lot of salts, which will make the land around them very less fertile. And then there is this huge pressure on the surrounding area, which will also impact the seismic stability. Because the soil around there is becoming loose. When you have so much water that is stored for a very long time, soil stability is also getting impacted, which will impact the structures in the surrounding region. Now, if you are a policy maker, tell me, how do you think we should come out of this situation? I just explained the facts, the causes, the impacts. See, imagine a case where you release this water. At the same time, you have an early monsoon in Tamil Nadu in the months of October and November. Already the Vaigai basin, from Periyar, we are transferring it to Vaigai basin. That Vaigai basin is full. You are already storing water that you accumulated in months of May, June, July. Because that is when you get rainwater from Periyar. You can't store this water. You can't release it. This network is damaged. You can't. If you release this, it will come this way. If you release this, it is already full. They are already scared that it will get submerged in normal months. Imagine the plight when they are already having a flood. You are stuck. If you are a policymaker, what should you do? Sorry? You want to? It's a no-brainer. You have to go back to your canal networks. The only problem is there are buildings sitting on that now. What do we do? You predict an oncoming disaster. Now what? What is the safety measure we can take? We can't have that level of prediction because we are talking about time lag of 3 months. That is what we tried to do in the first place. What if you have a deficit then? Like I said, the problem is some of them are ignored and in some of the places there are buildings sitting. If you don't take a call, nature will. Nature doesn't know the address of rich people. It just knows only one thing. It will show humanity the kind of place we deserve. So what's the solution? Respect the nature. Put, the channels back in the place they were supposed to. And see, the original design was working well. Now if the climate is changing and if you still want to use this network, the only way we have to do that is by revitalizing this entire network of canals and dismantling any illegal structures that were constructed in this region. How, if you allow, some people to get benefit of this, entire region will get affected by this. And this is the systemic understanding that you need to have. This is the immediate solution. Next, climate change. To handle any climate change issue, the solution will always be a nature-based solution, not a technological one. Okay? This is what the article is saying. Now, taking the second fact, for any climate-related issue, the solution is always a nature-based one, not a technological one. This premise, let's carry forward into the second article. Yeah, cloud seeding and stubble burning. Two different issues, but both of them are interconnected. Okay, let me explain the interconnected issue first. Then we will take over the wisdom that we got from the first article and pass it on to the second one. What is the issue in NCR Delhi during this month's? Issue is air pollution. Every time you see the same articles coming up again and again and again. If there are any new developments, it is just the change in the statistics but not the fate of the people. Air quality index, which was supposed to be somewhere less than 100, is near 1000, and that is the upper limit because the systems are not designed for anything over above that. We don't know what is the level of air quality. One common reason cited is Diwali and the crackers. To an extent, yes. But is that the only solution? No. Let's understand the topography, the geographical terrain, the other geographical conditions that factor in to create this pollution, or I would not say create it, sustain it for a longer time, and other man-made problems that accentuate this problem of pollution in Delhi. Okay, let's go back to the most basic funda. Let's look at the geography of any region. If you want to talk about the climate of that region, the first area that you need to look at, geography. How is the geography of Delhi like? It's like a saucer. It's a low-lying area, vast low-lying area. So, when the air is cold, it descends. The pressure is applied on that geography. Basic funda. When you have high pressure, it generally indicates the temperature is low, and vice versa. Fine. Temperature is already low in Delhi, and if you don't want pollution particles to accumulate, you will have to depend on air. So you will see that in warmer regions, even if there is pollution, air moves away and the particles fly away. Okay? But unlike in the warmer regions in Delhi, the pollution particles also settle down, and this creates a very uncomfortable situation where you will see the fog, smog. Okay? If you go back to your geography basics, what are the different kinds of precipitation, what is fog, what is smog, you will know all of this. I will not be explaining that because it's beyond the scope of this lecture. With an assumption that you know what a fog or a smog is, now it is created. Let me proceed. The main problem of Delhi is this lack of, first, visibility, and two, the nature of quality. You're finding it very difficult to breathe. The air quality is so bad that if you take a walk for a few minutes in that weather, you might end up having a lot of breathing issues and health issues. Your eyes start burning, and I'm not exaggerating, I am a witness of that. I was walking and I could barely breathe after half an hour. So it's not a pleasant sight to be in, especially around this time. It's really bad. For someone outside Delhi, it is really bad. Maybe if they got acclimatized to that situation, they will have better coping mechanism. So Delhi is one place where they were so comfortable with the term N95 mask even before COVID. We didn't know what N95 back then was, but people in Delhi knew it way earlier than most of Indians because of this peculiar situation. So one of the, if you go back to the basics and see how is pollution caused, you saying that only this is the reason will be short-sighted. Pollution in an urban center is a combination of various factors, primarily attributed to the burning of fossil fuels. But one more factor that is actually making worse the issue of pollution in Delhi is the so-called stubble burning that is happening in the neighboring state of Punjab. If you want to understand the magnitude of this problem, I'll just give you a rough ballpark figure to help you visualize the kind of impact it will have. Apparently, in 2023, 19 lakh hectares had paddy. And in all those 19 lakh hectares, the paddy stubble was burnt. Just to give you a context of how big this is, the amount of crop area where you saw this stubble burning is almost 10x to 15x the size of Delhi. So if you imagine 15 Delhis clubbed together where you see crop stubble, they're burnt there, that is coming up and is settling down in an area which is 1/10 of the cumulative size of the area burnt. So it is an understatement to say they're finding it difficult to breathe, they're literally choking. You might feel like the farmers in this entire story are the villains. Actually not. Imagine the plight of those farmers where they will have a very short window, not more than 2 to 3 weeks, before they have to move on to the next cycle of the crop. They tried everything. They wanted to see if this solution that is given by the Delhi government, a biotechnology based Pusa biodecomposer, which will slowly ferment, or not ferment, rather decompose all the stubble and eventually act as a manure for the land. They don't have the time. That is problem number one. Even public-private partnership solutions, just like how in Chhattisgarh. What happened in Chhattisgarh? So, imagine a similar situation where there is a lot of stubble. There would be some private players or maybe even government stakeholders who would go to those places, collect the stubble and use it in a way that can be sustainable. It can be in terms of creating some biofuel or repurposing that stubble in some other biotechnologically friendly way or environmentally friendly way. That was also a model suggested. Simply did not work out. Now, government imposed a fine if you see, if the government sees any of the farmer burning the stubble, they'll impose a fine. That fine is actually on the vote bank of the same government. So do you think it will be imposed with diligence? No matter which party comes into the power, if you are penalizing your voters, they will remember that. I'm trying to help you understand the practical nature of this. Nobody is at fault here. Farmers, they don't want to burn. Why would they want to burn? Unless and until they have a viable solution. No. People in Delhi are not anyway involved, but they are facing the brunt of this issue. The governments want to achieve and try and better that entire scenario. It is also not happening. How do we solve this? At this point of time, the government's claim is that the area in which this stubble burning is happening is reduced. But if you take a look at the ground reality, if you watch it closely, the data is based on the observations made through satellites. And these satellites have a blind spot. They do not consider a short-lived, like these satellites move around the earth, right? So by the time they come back to the same place, this fire is already extinguished. And the farmers are so smart that they know exactly the time where this satellite is going to come back. And they carry out this stubble burning activity in small batches, and they finish the entire stock in three weeks. So way back in 2023, if the numbers showed that 19 lakh hectares had this stubble burning problem, now it is down to 15 lakh. A marginal decrease in 4 lakh hectares. But the reality is, it might have been more also. We don't know. How do we solve this? Diversification of crops. Very good. The root problem here is the policy choices we have had. What is the policy choice? The so-called minimum support price, where we have extensive support to paddy, wheat. When you want to solve this problem, nobody is questioning, why should you only go for paddy? Answer is pretty straightforward. Because it is an income security for most farmers. Government is procuring it. And we are still looking at paddy and wheat as the source of food security for our nation. And Punjab farmers are one of the most influential vote banks when it comes to the farming community. Even the farm laws had to be withdrawn because they were not consulted. Their pain points were not addressed in the bills. So when you have such a powerful pressure group, they need to be consulted and factored in for any policy to sustain. So when there is a policy, when you suggested that we have to diversify our crops, move away from MSP, that is the exact opposite direction that farmers' protest took. They wanted a legalization of MSP, which is just not sustainable. So the government is stuck. And now it is moving to some technological fixes to see if we can address this issue. One such technological fix is the cloud seeding. Cloud seeding is a geoengineering technique where you want to cause rainfall by placing some chemicals in the atmosphere. At its simplest, uncomplicated way, if I have to explain, this is how I would put it. You want to cause rainfall artificially. But this has a twofold limitation. One, technical, two, ethical. What is the technical problem? This technique works only when you already have a rain-bearing cloud. It can just act as a catalyst. What is the fundamental premise of rain? You need to have moisture. Where will you get this moisture from? So, that's a problem. Ethical let's say even if it became successful, we tried to absorb all the moisture from different places. Okay, before all of this, before I even talk about the ethical issue, how do you think rainfall will solve the problem of pollution? It will, after the rain falls, the pressure on that situation of that area will, that it gets decimated, and the pollutants are supposedly moving away. That is one geoengineering solution for pollution. But coming back, technical challenge is that it is not sustainable. Last year, we have seen a peculiar situation where Dubai had floods. They tried this cloud seeding, and that got amplified, and there were floods. What is the guarantee that you will not see similar situations here? The last thing that Delhi wants right now in this situation is flood. Second is an ethical challenge. You are using a lot of chemicals in this process. Do you have a study which had documented the possible side effects? No. Will it always lead to benefit? No. Is there a trade-off? Maybe. If you don't know what the trade-off is, if you don't know what the long-term impact is, on what ethical grounds are you even, suggesting this measure? It has neither a long-term solution nor a clarity on its side effects. Which again brings us back to the same conclusion. The problems created by environment can only be solved through nature-based solutions, not technological gimmicks. You can use technology with an intent. You can use technology with an intent to amplify the scope of these nature-based solutions, not supplement or replace them. And that is the takeaway from today's lecture. Okay, that's it for the day. Thank you. Oh wait, there's one more issue actually. It's a unrelated thing, but I'll explain it anyway. This job crisis. This is a repetitive issue. If I have to summarize the philosophy of this entire issue, the main point that the author is making, I'll have to sum it up in this way. The present government promised that we will have 2 crore jobs. And the major criticism by this opposition MP is that that promise is not being fulfilled. And we have to supplement it with state-led jobs. So public sector should hire more. In the present scheme of things, every major public institution is having a shortfall. Whether it is health, education, research, public service delivery related administrators, every department, even IAS, there is a, there are many committee reports. There is a major dissatisfaction that we don't have enough number of administrators. A case to the point being, recently we reconstituted the state of Telangana and also Andhra Pradesh, reconstituted the existing districts into many more districts. For example, previously we had 10, now it is 31 or 33. Right. How will you create the administrative machinery? Every district is supposed to be headed by a DM or a collector. You can't expect the state services alone to cater to all the needs. Okay, let's say even if they do, because it's the state's prerogative, how do you train them? How do you recruit them if you don't have a predictable calendar? You know the saga of most state PCS jobs, also Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. They're neither predictable nor sustainable. So in this light, what do you suggest? This is a question that this author is raising. Okay, that's the gist of this article. You can read it through. You can just follow whatever is being discussed. I just wanted to highlight this point about public sector role in employment creation. See, we are talking about a phase of demographic dividend, and we are in a position to attain that only if and only the basics are taken care. Governance, healthcare, education, all the basic public services that are delivered on time, corruption free, and public sector jobs can facilitate that. In a completely unrelated article, we were discussing about healthcare models and how it has a potential to create many jobs. You can try and link that part as well. Okay? Sure. Try to attend the lectures offline regularly. As the season proceeds towards prelims, the orientation will move away from mains towards prelims somewhere around December. But by that time, you will also have a complete orientation on mains part also. If you were attending this lectures from May, in the initial days, the design of articles was in such a way that I taught you the basics of polity. Then after that, I taught you about, in the context of Operation Sindoor, about internal security. Then I taught you the basics of international relations, then economy. Then recently, we have started dealing with science and tech articles. And slowly, we will be moving towards geography, environment, and then a full-fledged run into complete. We will go back to these older articles, the ones that we have missed, and we will have a marathon of classes when every day you will, after getting this basics right, you will see a regular, prelims update. So since this is, anyway free of cost, I would recommend that you attend it offline, because I know when you are online, you might treat this just like any other free resource and not pay the attention that you should ideally do. Okay? Chalo.